Which key education philosopher believed social interaction plays a major role in cognitive development? Vygotsky. A teacher believes in hands-on, activity-based learning. Therefore, most of his assignments for his first grade class focus on problem solving and using manipulatives. Which student-centered approach to learning is this teacher using? Constructivism. Which historical figure believed that focusing solely on vocational education would improve the plight of African Americans? Frederick Douglass. How did Horace Mann influence the development of common elementary schools? He kept educational issues before the public. Which foundational educator whose method of asking a series of questions to lead students to certain conclusions is still used today? Socrates. Which philosophical practice of Socrates can be seen in the contemporary classroom? Teachers ask a series of questions. Which federal statute influenced contemporary education and includes the themes of equal treatment, appropriate education, and people with disabilities? Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. A teacher who joined the NEA, National Education Association, has had a difficult time understanding the relationship between the assessment process and the Common Core standards. How can NEA serve as a resource to help solve his dilemma? The teacher can download NEA handbooks on a variety of topics. What is the current concern if all states adopt the Common Core state standards? States will be required to use the same standardized tests. Which government agency is responsible for overseeing the education of Native American students on reservations through the Bureau of Indian Affairs? Department of the Interior. Which non-government entity developed 10 standards to describe what beginning teachers should know and be able to do? The Interstate New Teachers Assessment and Support Consortium, NTASC. How did the National Defense Education Act impact contemporary education? High school students must take science, math, and foreign language classes to meet graduation requirements. What was a direct outcome of the A Nation at Risk report? The federal government challenged schools to prepare students for a global economy. Which school option provides students with a theme curriculum such as performing in visual arts or math and science? Magnet schools. Which tuition-free option to public school was designed to meet the need for advanced studies and credit recovery as well as serve students unable to attend school for social reasons? Virtual schools. An early childhood teacher now works at a Montessori preschool, and she is deciding which assessment practices to use with students. Last year, she applied the high scope model at the school where she previously taught. What should the teacher consider about each program when making her decisions? Montessori teachers record mastery of observable skills. High scope teachers create a portfolio with students, work examples, and use developmental checklists to assess growth. A student who is only interested in music is having a hard time focusing in social studies class. What is an effective way for the teacher to try to engage this student? Design a class lecture connecting the historical content to current music trends. A teacher is going to lead a field trip and wants some of her students' parents to be chaperones. She wrote an article for the school newsletter asking for chaperones, but she did not receive a sufficient response. Which direct method should the teacher use to follow up? Send an email and note to the parents requesting their assistance as chaperones. A fifth grade teacher wants students to celebrate the diverse cultures represented in the classroom. The teacher decides to have a cultural awareness program in which each student brings family pictures and stories to share from grandparents about what life was like for them when they were 10 years old. Which type of cultural awareness is the teacher promoting? Enculturation. A middle school counselor has several LGBTQ students assigned to her caseload next year. What should the counselor consider when developing strategies and programming to effectively support these individuals? LGBTQ individuals comprise the largest population of homeless youth. Which two types of family structure are more common in contemporary society than 60 years ago? Children living in single-parent households and mothers working while fathers stay at home with children. A teacher hears a colleague make a derogatory comment that stereotypes a particular ethnic student group. What is the colleague demonstrating in this instance? Discrimination. The teacher has a class that includes 5 beginning English language learners. The teacher is preparing a unit test and wants to provide appropriate support so the ELLs can demonstrate understanding of the content. Which type of support can the teacher provide to meet this goal? Allow extra time for students to complete the test. Which domestic issue is addressed when a charitable agency provides extra school supplies for each classroom? Economic stress. Which approach can help prevent sexual harassment from affecting students' academic achievement? Allow students to anonymously report an incident. A local middle school is in the process of hiring a new teacher. 3 candidates were interviewed. The candidate to be hired selected, and the final recommendation was sent to the school board. Who typically sends this recommendation? Superintendent. First grade teachers want to institute a Read to Dogs program to support struggling readers. Which school official should they first contact with their proposal? Principal. Due to a school's low performance, a principal is concerned that the State Department of Education may require reconstructing of the school. Which function of the State Department of Education addresses this issue? Operational. What is the major source of funding for public school operations? State taxes. Which principle within the United States Constitution has been strengthened by affirmative action statutes and court cases as related to public education? Equal opportunity. Which question addresses equity in the financing of public education? Does each school across the state have the same amount of funding? A public school district is paying for transportation for students attending a high-performing private school. How is this justified under the child benefit theory? The transportation benefits the students rather than the school. Which level of privacy can teachers expect regarding the use of their school email? The email system and its content are owned by the district, so it can be viewed by school administrators at any time. During a school assembly, Matthew Fraser, a high school senior, gave a short speech using sexual innuendos to nominate his friend for a student government position. School administrators stopped the speech and suspended him for 2 days. The student argued that his First Amendment rights were violated. What did the United States Supreme Court rule in this case? The speech was disruptive under the standards used by similar cases and was therefore considered unlawful. Which law ensures that all students with disabilities are guaranteed a free, appropriate public education? The IDEA. It's Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. A teacher works in a district whose administration strongly A teacher works in a district whose administration strongly supports bring your own device for research in the classroom. A student who is habitually a slow worker and barely maintains a passing average is the 4th student finished with the research assignment. When the teacher grades the assignment, he finds that the student has made 100%. Which action demonstrates the teacher's responsibility in this instance? Monitor the device while students are working on assignments. Which type of law impacts educators through the United States Department of Education? Administrative laws. How does the concept of value added relate to teacher evaluation? It connects teacher effort with increased test scores. What are 2 characteristics that apply to the educational standard of all states? States may choose to adopt the Common Core state standards, and states are required to use a set of standards. What are two purposes of standard-based education? To describe outcomes of student learning and to understand why achievement gaps exist among student groups. A charter school principal asks teachers to determine the standards and skills in which their students need in-depth and rigorous learning at their grade level. Once the teacher aligned the grade level standards, they set out to redesign their curriculum. Their redesign work focused on students' performance on real tasks with multiple forms of evidence of learning. This is essential schools. What was an intention for developing the Common Core state standards? To focus on expectations for student learning. What is a frequently expressed concern about the Common Core state standards? Standards will expand until they become a required national curriculum.